Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Can I have your attention real quick? Now, I ain't going to keep you long unless I feel like y'all need some extra fixing. Now, look, I'm about to share with y'all some wisdom today. Not something from a book, not something from a podcast. Now, this is life school. Tuition paid for by mistakes, regrets, and a few what the hell was I thinking moments. The title of this here message is Always Be Silent in 9 Situations. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is nothing at all. Sometimes in life we believe that power lies in how loud we are, how quickly we can respond, or how sharp our tongue can cut. But the truth is, real strength is found in restraint. It takes much more strength to remain silent than it does to explode in anger or talk over others just to prove a point. Silence is not weakness. In fact, it is one of the most underrated forms of power. When someone comes at you sideways, your instinct might be to clap back immediately, to defend your pride, protect your name, or simply make sure nobody gets the wrong impression about who you are. That's human. But silence in that moment, that's divine. See, silence doesn't mean you don't have something to say. It means what you could say isn't worth the cost of peace, dignity, or your time. Because the loudest person in the room isn't always the most powerful. Sometimes it's just the most insecure. A wise person once said, never wrestle with a pig. You both get dirty, but the pig likes it. Sometimes the best clap back is none at all. You maintain your energy, your integrity, and your focus. People will try to bait you, test you, even disrespect you just to get a reaction. They want you to lose it so they can point and say, see, I knew they were like that. Don't give them the satisfaction. The person who can keep their mouth shut, even when they're justified to speak, is the one truly in control. Think about how many situations you've seen at work and relationships online where someone said too much and ended up regretting it. Words spoken in anger can destroy years of trust. A single outburst can cost a job, a relationship, or a reputation. But silence gives you time. Time to think. Time to breathe. Time to weigh whether what you want to say is something you'll still stand by tomorrow. This doesn't mean you let people walk all over you, not at all. Being silent isn't about being passive, it's about being strategic. It means picking your battles wisely. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to smile, keep your peace, and move forward. It leaves people wondering, why didn't they react? And that mystery, that discipline commands respect. There's also a spiritual depth to silence. When you stop talking, you start listening to others, to your own thoughts, and sometimes even to that still small voice inside that says, don't go there. It's not worth it. In the noise of everyday life, we often miss the wisdom that comes from quiet moments. Some of your biggest breakthroughs will come when you stop arguing and start reflecting. You don't have to win every argument. You don't have to correct every misunderstanding. You don't have to defend yourself against every lie. Sometimes silence will do all the work for you. It's the long game. Let your consistency, your growth, your peace, and your results do the talking. So the next time you feel tempted to speak just to prove something, ask yourself, what's the cost? Is this response helping me or just feeding my ego? Am I reacting out of strength or emotion? Because real strength isn't in the noise you make, it's in the peace you keep. And that's why silence, when used right, is one of the most powerful tools you'll ever have. There's a moment right before you say something you'll regret, a split second where emotion takes the wheel and logic gets thrown in the trunk. It's in that moment that most damage is done. Speaking out of anger or frustration might feel good in the moment, but more often than not, it leads to consequences that last far longer than that fleeting emotion ever did. That's why one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself is pause. When you're being pulled by emotion, especially anger, silence is your greatest protector. Anger is a fire. It burns hot, fast, and uncontrollably if you don't get a hold of it. And when you're in the heat of it, your words can become weapons, sharp, hurtful, irreversible. You might win the argument, sure, but at what cost? A damaged relationship, a ruined opportunity, a moment of disrespect that creates a lifetime of distance. That's the thing about reacting when emotions are high. You don't see the damage until it's already done. But silence is like water. It cools the fire. It gives you time to breathe, to let that initial wave of emotion pass before you say or do something you can't take back. And here's the truth. If something truly needs to be said, it can wait until your emotions are no longer steering the ship. When you pause, you allow clarity to catch up with you. You create space between what happened and how you choose to respond. That space is where wisdom lives. So many people confuse silence with weakness. They think if you don't respond right away, you're soft or scared, but let them think what they want. Because staying silent when you're upset doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. It means you value peace over pride, understanding over impulse. It means you're strong enough to choose your battles, not just react to every swing thrown your way. There's also something powerful about how silence makes people uncomfortable. When someone expects a reaction and gets none, it throws them off. It shifts the dynamic. Instead of giving them the reaction they were hoping for, your silence becomes a statement all on its own. It says, I'm in control of me. You don't get to pull me out of character. And let's be real. How many times have you said something in the heat of the moment and later thought, man, I shouldn't have said that? Probably more than you'd like to admit. We all have. But growth starts when you recognize that pattern and decide to break it. That doesn't mean you never speak your truth. It just means you learn to wait until your truth isn't laced with unnecessary pain. There's also a deeper emotional intelligence that comes from this practice. You start recognizing your triggers. You become aware of how easily words can escalate things. And the more you practice silence in emotional moments, the more respect you gain, not just from others, but from yourself. You start trusting yourself to handle things like a leader, not a reactor. Remember this, reacting is easy. Anybody can yell, snap, or throw shade when they're mad. But responding with thought, with maturity, with grace, that takes strength. And that starts with the pause, with choosing not to let your emotions be the author of your story. So the next time you feel that anger rising, do yourself a favor, say nothing, breathe, wait. And when the moment passes, when your heart has settled, decide what, if anything, truly needs to be said. Because what you don't say in anger could save you from a lifetime of regret. In a world where everyone is trying to be heard, the value of listening has quietly faded into the background. These days, it feels like most conversations are just two people waiting for their turn to speak rather than genuinely hearing one another. But here's the truth. There is incredible power in simply being silent when someone else is speaking. Not only is it a sign of respect, it's also one of the most effective ways to connect, to grow, and to lead with character. When someone is speaking and you stay quiet, you're not just avoiding interruption. You're saying what you're saying matters. You're giving them space to fully express themselves. And in doing so, you build trust. Think about it. How many times have you opened up to someone only to be cut off or overtalked? It instantly changes how safe you feel in that moment. Silence when someone else is speaking isn't passive, it's active listening. It's presence. It's saying, I see you, I hear you, I respect you. Interrupting someone doesn't make you sound smart or important. In fact, it often does the opposite. It shows a lack of patience, of discipline, and sometimes even insecurity. People who feel the need to constantly talk over others are usually more interested in being right than being real. But the person who can sit quietly, absorb what's being said, and respond thoughtfully, that's the person everyone eventually listens to. Staying silent while someone else speaks is also an opportunity to learn. Every person you meet knows something you don't. They've lived different experiences, faced different battles, and seen life from an angle you haven't. When you're too busy talking, you miss all of that. You miss the lesson hidden in their story. You miss the insight behind their emotion. You miss the chance to grow from their experience. And sometimes the answer you've been searching for is tucked away in a conversation you almost talked over. Silence, in this context, also shows maturity. Children interrupt. Teenagers talk over one another. But grown people, leaders, people with vision and purpose, they know when to speak and when to sit back and take it in. They understand that just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. That moment when someone else is pouring out their thoughts is not your stage. It's their moment. Let them have it. Give them that dignity. That's how you build real relationships. You also gain clarity when you stay silent. Sometimes people will reveal more than they planned to, not because you pushed them, but because you didn't. You let them talk. You didn't interrupt with your opinion or try to fix everything with advice. You just let them be. And in that space, truth comes out. Pain comes out. Realness comes out. You'd be surprised how much people open up when they feel heard instead of judged. And here's something else. Silence keeps you from looking foolish. How many times have you jumped into a conversation assuming you knew what was going on, only to realize you had no clue? It's like walking into the middle of a movie and yelling at the screen. But when you listen first, when you wait and gather the full picture, your words carry more weight. Because now when you speak, you're not just reacting, you're responding with understanding. So whether it's in your relationships, your work, your friendships, or even social media, remember this. Not every moment needs your voice. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to sit, listen, and let someone else have the floor. Because when you choose to be silent while others speak, you're not just being polite, you're being wise, you're being strong, and you're creating space for something. There's a quiet kind of power in choosing to listen and learn instead of always needing to speak. In today's world where everyone seems to have an opinion on everything and people are quick to jump into conversations just to be heard, choosing to stay silent and absorb can set you apart in a big way. It's not about being shy or uncertain. It's about understanding that growth often happens in silence. The people who go the furthest in life are the ones who know they don't know everything. The problem is too many people talk just to fill space. They interrupt, they advise, they argue, not always because they have something valuable to say, but because silence makes them uncomfortable. But if you can get past that discomfort and really start leaning into silence when others are speaking, especially when those others know more than you do, that's where transformation begins. Silence gives you the chance to soak in wisdom. There's something powerful about sitting in a room with people who are more experienced, more successful, or more knowledgeable than you, and just listening. Not pretending, not posturing, just taking it all in. Because in those moments, you're not losing your voice, you're finding your strength. You're collecting insight, sharpening your perspective, and learning from the lived experiences of others. And here's something that often gets overlooked. When you're constantly speaking, you're not just missing out on new knowledge, you might also be revealing your ignorance. It's easy to say the wrong thing when you don't fully understand the situation. It's easy to make assumptions when you haven't listened long enough. That's how misunderstandings happen. That's how trust is broken. That's how opportunities slip through your fingers. Because you were so busy trying to be right that you never stopped to get it right. Listening also builds respect. People appreciate when you take the time to hear them out. When you're fully present in a conversation without always turning it back to yourself, it shows that you value what the other person is bringing to the table. And that kind of respect comes back to you. People are more willing to support you, to teach you, to open doors for you when they feel seen and heard in your presence. And it's not just about conversations with others. Sometimes you need to stay silent just to hear yourself think, to sit still, to reflect. That's when your own intuition gets louder. That's when ideas start to form. That's when you notice what needs to change. If you're always talking, always filling every moment with noise, you miss the voice within. And often, that voice has the clearest direction for your life. Learning requires humility. It takes a strong person to admit, I don't know enough about this. Let me listen. That's not weakness, that's wisdom in action. That's the type of mindset that builds leaders, innovators, and change makers. The ones who aren't just talking to be heard, but are learning so they can make a real impact. So the next time you're in a conversation or a meeting or just sitting with someone who's sharing something valuable, resist the urge to jump in. Hold your tongue. Open your ears. Let your silence be your strength, because the person who listens the most often grows the fastest. And in the long run, they're the ones who actually have something worth saying. There will always be people in this world who make it their mission to push your buttons. They'll poke at your weaknesses, throw shade your way, and try to get under your skin, not because they're right, but because they crave your reaction. They want your energy. They want your attention. But here's the truth. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every provocation needs to be met with a comeback. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to stay silent and protect your peace. People who try to provoke you usually aren't looking for truth, they're looking for drama. They want to drag you into their chaos, pull you down to their level and get a show out of it. And if you fall for it, if you give them that satisfaction, you lose something far more valuable than your pride. You lose your control. The moment you react without thinking, you hand over your power. You let someone else dictate your mood, your mindset, and your energy. But when you stay silent in the face of provocation, you're telling the world and yourself that you are not easily moved. You're not going to let a petty comment ruin your day. You're not going to let a bitter person rent space in your mind. You're not going to waste your voice defending yourself against people who are committed to misunderstanding you. That kind of self-control, that's rare. That's strength. That's plastic. Think about how much energy is wasted in arguments that don't matter. How many hours we spend trying to prove ourselves to people who don't even deserve a seat at the table. Every time you argue with a fool, you become part of the circus. And once you're in it, no one can tell the difference between who's who. But when you walk away, when you choose peace over pride, you rise above it. And that silence, that speaks louder than any insult ever could. Now let's be real. It's not easy. When someone disrespects you, the urge to clap back can be strong. It feels like you're standing up for yourself. But sometimes standing up for yourself means not giving someone the satisfaction of a reaction. Sometimes the best thing you can say is nothing at all, because your silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's knowing that your energy is too valuable to waste on nonsense. And let's not forget this, people are watching, your family, your coworkers, your friends, your followers. People notice how you carry yourself when the pressure's on. They see whether you explode or stay grounded. They see whether you respond with dignity or fall into drama. And your silence in those moments can build more respect than 1,000 clever comebacks ever could. Silence also gives you time to think, to breathe, to ask yourself, is this really worth it? Will this matter tomorrow, next week, next year? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. But when you react in the moment, it feels like life or death. That's what emotion does. It tricks you into thinking the moment is bigger than it really is. But when you step back, when you stay silent, the emotion settles and your clarity rises. You deserve to protect your peace. You deserve to choose your battles. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Sometimes the best way to respond is to rise above, to stay silent, and to keep moving forward. Because your energy, it's your currency. Don't spend it on people who don't deserve a single second of it. So the next time someone tries to get a rise out of you, pause, smile if you want to, but most importantly, say nothing. Walk away with your peace intact. Because the strongest person in the room is often the one who said the least. There's something sacred about moving in silence. In a world obsessed with showing off every win, every move, every detail of our lives on social media, keeping your progress private has become a lost art. But if you've ever gone through real growth, if you've ever had to heal, rebuild, or start over, you know that the deepest transformation doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens quietly, behind closed doors, far away from the noise. That's where the real work gets done. When you're in a season of healing or building, you're vulnerable. You're not the finished product yet. You're in the middle of becoming. And in that place, the wrong words, opinions, or distractions can throw you off course. That's why silence is so powerful. It protects the process. You don't owe anyone a front row seat to your struggle. You don't have to explain your absence, justify your progress, or prove your pain. Some things are too personal to be posted. Some battles are too sacred to be shared. Silence gives you space to focus. When you're not constantly updating people on what you're doing, you get to put all that energy into actually doing it. You don't need to pause your progress to respond to questions or defend your decisions. You get to move freely on your own timeline with your own rhythm. And when you're truly focused on building something, whether it's your career, your confidence, your health, or your peace, you don't need the distraction of outside. Opinions don't pay the bills. Comments don't heal your heart. Likes don't build legacies. Sometimes people want to see you struggle just to feel better about themselves. They'll pretend to cheer for you while secretly hoping you fall. That's why it's dangerous to share too much too soon. When you move in silence, you protect your vision from the negativity of people who don't want to see you rise. You keep your energy from being drained by judgment, doubt, or jealousy, because the truth is, not everyone wants to see you win. Some folks just want front row seats to your failure. Don't give them the show. And here's the beauty of silence. It allows your results to speak for you. When you show up later, healthier, stronger, more successful, they'll see it. You won't have to explain where you've been. Your transformation will tell the whole story. When you've been working in silence, the reveal hits different. It's not noise, it's impact. It's not hype, it's evidence. This doesn't mean you isolate yourself completely. It means you choose your circle wisely. You share your journey with people who've earned the right to hear it, people who uplift you, challenge you, and support you without judgment. Everyone else, they'll get the update when it's done, not during the struggle, but when you're standing tall on the other side of it. Healing is personal. Growth is messy. Reinvention is lonely. That's why it's okay, more than okay, to be silent while you go through it, to cry in private, to wrestle with yourself, to take 2 steps back before you take that giant leap forward. You don't have to broadcast your brokenness. Sometimes disappearing for a while is the best thing you can do for your soul. So take your time, do the work, stay consistent, keep the noise down, and when it's time, when you're ready to step back into the light, you'll do it with power, with purpose, and with peace, because you didn't waste energy proving anything to anyone. You used that energy to become. And that version of you, the one that shows up after the silent season, that version will speak louder than words ever could.